guys, Live for Love TV. I want you to like, share and subscribe. Big up yourself.
Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today is the 11th day of the 5th month of the 23rd year inside the 21st century. Hope everyone's doing extremely well out there. To many of you, you'll notice already that the day is a very poignant day, very important day. I say that because 42 years ago, on this day, the 11th of May, not only the greatest reggae artist passed away, but I believe the greatest musician passed away, the greatest artist in music genre, full stop. Now people are going to say I'm biased because I'm a reggae lover, grew up in it, born in it, house and everything. But I think I can be a little bit, a bit circumflex about the whole thing. I can, because when I look around the world, is why I'm saying that Mr. Bob Marley is the greatest artist of all time. Because I believe he's one of the few few musical artists that if you see his face on a t-shirt, anywhere on the continent of Africa, the subcontinent of India, China, anywhere, everybody will be able to point to that person and know who he is. Or almost everybody will point to that person and know who he is. The great artists like Michael Jackson, James Brown, the Beatles, Elvis, all of these people, they're great artists, nobody can deny them. But they didn't have the cultural impact outside of their music that this man had. This man had a cultural impact that seems to get stronger year in, year out. Just goes stronger and stronger and stronger. And nobody can point their finger to why that is. Many people will admit who love reggae music that he wasn't the greatest reggae singer. Some will say he was a great writer, but maybe not even the greatest writer. He could play the guitar, but maybe not the best guitar player. He was good on stage, and maybe other people will say that other people could match him on stage. So it's hard to put your finger on what made him the icon that he has become. But if I may lend my own view, I think it's a universal thing, because there's so many things that came together at the time Bob Marley came about. He came about when a new music evolved from an existing music, which we call reggae music now. That was a new music. So when you've got something that's new to people in general, around the world, to people, they've never really heard it before, instantly, I say the people who are at the beginning of that are going to have an iconic stage, an iconic status, should I say. So that's one of the things, that the music was new. The identity that he came with on a world stage. Yes, it was known in Jamaica. Yes, people have seen locks before, but his identity, his Rastafarian identity with the dreadlocks, was new to people around the world when Bob Marley and many other people were loxing up. It was completely new. So that's another thing. He also stood for the two races by having a white father and a black mother. So a lot of mixed race people, when I was growing up at that time, didn't really have a great identity, They either had to go to one side or the other. Bob Marley sort of allowed them to stand their ground. Rather than having to say I'm black or having to say I'm white, they could just say I am. So he I'd say, is at the beginning, in the forefront of that as well. But there's so many other things when you think about Bob Marley that came about at the time. Him, being able to go to country, having the travel bug. Let's call it the travel bug. I've had the travel bug, where you're not afraid to go places where nobody's told you about. Bob Marley had that long before any other reggae artist, or probably any other artist that we knew. He went into places that we've only hearing about now. We only hear about now that he went there, or that he did a show there or whatsoever. Artists are just now hearing about some of those names. Bob Marley had already been to those places and conquered them, as far as I'm concerned. I'm saying he's not just an icon, I'm saying musically, because he stems above music for some reason. If it was just his musical ability, I'd say, okay, fair enough, maybe there are other people on his level. But because of his other things that came along with Bob Marley, his wisdom, his character, You know, some of his sayings. If you watch back some of his videos, he didn't read from anybody's playbook. He spoke from his heart. He spoke about what he believed and what he said. Things he'd say, which people can now say is the Tao Te Ching now. He would say things like, I live in my head. When people ask him where's he live, where's he from, he said he lives in his head. Anywhere he goes is his home. You know, you hear people talking that kind of nomadic style now, but Bob Marley was saying that at the height of his fame. Very few people could say things like that. So he was an icon. He was unique. He was an enigma to people who didn't like him. He was mysterious to those who'd never seen Rastafari and the way Rastafari was trodden in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. So he's so many things to so many people. And when you go onto the continent of Africa, where there is 1.3 billion people now, when you're on the African continent, for instance, and you see the influence that Bob Marley, not just Bob Marley, reggae music in general, but Bob Marley at the forefront has had on the continent, it's absolutely amazing. When you're talking about a little country of 3 million people, and you're talking about a continent of 1 billion people, it's just unbelievable. It's like you just can't understand it. Sometimes you grew up with it, you saw it, you live with it. I, as a young child, I'll be honest with you, growing up in northwest London, in Neasden, we were little kids playing on the streets, and we'd see, when we were playing football around our area, we'd see Bob Marley and other people walking to and fro. I won't say the streets, but to and fro. And in those days, you must remember, we don't know who he is. We don't know who we are at that time. We're only little kids, not even 10 years old yet, 7-year-old. And they look strange to me. They never looked like my dad. They never looked like the elder community that I knew. They'd wear these baggy trousers and, different type of jackets and, scarves. And they just look completely different, to anything I had seen. And later on, when I go back and look at the way they were dressing at that time, you start to realize that there's a lot of things that musicians do that are obviously completely different to the average 9-to-5er, which is where my parents and family would have been from. But anyway, in saying that, this iconic figure passed away 42 years ago today, and I thought I'd say a few words to Bob Marley, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't say he should be your number one musician or your number one reggae artist if you like reggae. I wouldn't say that. But the legacy and the fact that, and what I love personally about Bob Marley is he never took a backward step from reggae. Never. Even at the height of his career, when I was told, when I was a young man, I was a teenager, and people were telling me that this guy was a sellout, he was commercial. This is the word on the street. This is what most of the people were saying. A lot of his music was not being played in the dance hall when I was growing up. Yeah, I'm talking about the late 70s. The dance hall was not being played because he was seen as commercial and he was called a sellout. When you go back and listen to those music, there's nothing sellout about any of the music, not a single record. I can't find one sellout record, one record that we thought commercial meant that you sold out your music in order to get liked. But what I now realize, commercial just means a lot of people like it. And he was authentic to his craft and to his music. So he becomes the icon, he becomes the reggae superstar, he becomes the musician, not of the last century, but the musician, as far as I'm concerned, of all time. You can have your Mozarts and your Bach. We'll keep our Bob Marley. Take care, Live for Love TV.
One step more, one step more, one step more, one step more until you reach your goals. One step more. This is Live for Love TV.